Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 10. Say not thou, what is the cause that the former days were better than these? For thou dost not inquire wisely concerning this. And I'm going to repeat that. Say not thou, what is this cause that the former days were better than these? For thou dost not inquire wisely concerning this. Ecclesiastes is another book, a book of wisdom literature that keeps us wise and is a guideline of how to change the characteristics that we have inside of us. And this here is a lesson. Many of us, when we came to Christ, God has delivered us of our past lives. And in doing so, we have lost some things. We may have lost our home because He has humbled us. You know, and many times in the scriptures, it speaks of what happened to certain people. They was humbled. And we think that, you know, the God in the Bible is not the same God as today. But I'm going to tell you right now that God is the same God He was in the Bible times, that He was yesterday, today, and He will be tomorrow. And if He humbled people in those days, you best believe that He's humbling people in these days. So when many people go through such things as natural disasters, and this is like, oh God, why is me? He's humbling some people. One of the very things that is speaked about over and over and over again, that Jesus says out of His mouth, that God says out of His mouth. One of the main keys to getting into the gates of heaven is to be and to remain humble. So if you find yourself in a humbling situation, count it joy. Count it a blessing. Count it an honor. When you receive correction or conviction, God says to count it all joy. Because He corrects only those who He loves. So when we're going through these times, where we have lost some things, or whether we have lost some things, or whether we have lost everything, and that includes the people around us, our loved ones, our children, our family, our friends, our jobs, find ourselves homeless, or we found ourselves, going from one place to another. And in the midst of our test, in the midst of the things that we're going through, we better not sound ungrateful for what we're going through and say, man, when I was over here and in this part I had this and I had that. What does me having to lose all this have to do with this journey that I'm going on now? Be careful. Because it's not just the looking back part. It's not realizing that, most people don't realize that you didn't lose anything. You gained everything. Let me repeat that to make it a little bit more clear. It's not just the looking back. It's the ungratefulness of what you have, no matter that you're going through these tests. Because see, the very thing that the Israelites that kept them running around in the desert was their complaining. And even though it wasn't what it was when they was in Egypt, God was still providing for them. It may not have been what they wanted, but they was being provided for. These people were so ungrateful they didn't realize that God was feeding them heavenly food. Food that nobody on earth could ever consume because it came from heaven. But yet they was complaining and wishing that they was back in Egypt being a slave, because even then, at least they got to eat onions. Could you imagine that? And literally it says that in the scriptures. They was upset and mad because they was missing eating onions. And I say that to help you and to get a sense on that some people, just how ridiculous it sounds to be ungrateful for the things that you have. Because you're alive. You may not have much, but there is even the fact that you sit there and don't have much. There's people wishing that they had what you have. You know, my children, when they was real young, you know, that commercial with the children on there who didn't have no food and had flies in their eyes, and they were talking about how they was just drinking water that is so filthy that it even had, you know, raw sewage running it, but that's the only water they had to drink. And you know, it plays that music, and if you can just give 10 cents a day or feed a child, and this was like years ago, I'd make them watch that. And I was not far from the Nashville airport. I was only about like 30 minutes from Nashville at the time. And so one time I had enough of them just being ungrateful and being bratty and snooty and just complained about everything. And these children are spoiled. I mean, spoiled, rotten, you name it, they had it. 10 times the amount that any kid could ever dreamed of. They had it all. My kids didn't have just one game system. They had 3 game systems because there was 3 kids that each had their own game system. And not only did they have that, but they had every single game system that ever existed. And then some. And so because they was acting that way, I packed up their bags and told them that we was going, that I was sending them to that place over there where the children lived that has either flies in their eyes, that they was going to go live over there until they could learn to appreciate the things that they had. So we're all piled up in the car, and I'm driving. And everybody knows that when you get to Nashville, the first thing you see is what we call the Batman Building. We all call it the Batman Building. If you're from there, you get it, you know. But the Batman Building is a big AT&T building. And at the top of it, it looks like the Batman head. You know, the pointed up the ears. So that's why it's called the Batman Building. And so they all thought I was joking. The whole time there, I was sitting there telling them, I was like, no, you're for real. You're going up there. We're going there right now. I'm going to put you on the plane. And first they didn't get it. But as, you know, the drive goes on, they're like, okay, this lady's not turning around. We do have suitcases. They keep looking at their suitcases, and they're looking at each other. And mind you, they were babies. I'm talking about, like, you know, like the youngest was probably like, you know, 4. The oldest was probably like 9 or 10, something like that, you know. So we're driving, we're getting there, and then when they see that Batman building, they knew that the airport was there. Because that Batman building was a sign that you was now reached downtown, Nashville, Tennessee, and there was the airport not too far from there. Man, as soon as they seen that Batman building, they just, eyes just bawling, they all started crying, Mama, no, pirate, we're sorry, promise, please don't send us away, we'll be, you know, how quick they changed. And so they made all these promises, and they get their act together, and they appreciate. They wouldn't be such bright little kids. And it worked great for about a year. But it worked. So here's the thing, though. We don't realize we have it so good because we're not grateful why we have it. There's people today, the reason why they can't be humbled is because the world, the society has made it to where we need to have more and more of it. And now, not only do we have it, but we need to upgrade it. So we're constantly seeking the bigger and better thing, and we never really appreciate what we actually have. The moment you start being grateful and thankful for the very things that you have, no matter what, if you have a car and it doesn't run all that great, be thankful that you have a car, because there's many people who do not. You have a house, no matter how small and raggedy and whatever it is, be grateful that you have a house. Many people do not. Learn to be content and be grateful for what God has provided for you.